Oh my God. There's not. There was guide dogs drama, and we are not no longer raising a puppy. It's the sad. I know. Alrighty. Well, it is the hour. So, uh, let's see. You will give me, I hope, a little bit of generosity because I'm using Hangouts, which I both deplore and don't have a lot of experience with. It's possible those are connected. I'm open to that, but probably not. Alrighty, and we're gonna, Google Hangouts doesn't have a built-in recording feature. And so I'm gonna do some screen recording and we'll hope for the best. Here's a link to the agenda, and I will also be screen sharing the agenda along with the rest of my beautiful screen. Can you guys let me know? Can you see my screen and my Zoom over here? Yeah. All right. Great. Cool. All right, and thank you. Please keep your arms and hands inside the Hangout at all times. Alrighty, so I thought for a warm up, I would ask for people to share what the funniest thing is that's happened to them on a video meeting. All right, go. Mm-hmm. Oh no. Classy. Anybody else got a good video meeting story? No. That's a pretty good one. When people say Rambutan, I always think of Rasputin, the advisor to the Tsar before the fall of the Russian oligarchy. He was a character. We can't talk about that. We're being recorded. Yeah. Alrighty. Any more burning video stories? No. Okay. Great. So I thought I'd just begin with a shout out for remote meeting best practices. So like y'all are not new to this. And so what does your experience tell you is things that you should do to have the best remote meeting experiences? Just chime in. Mute when you're not talking. Amen, sister. Hallelujah. Mm. Can you say more about that? I love it. That was an excellent illustration by Brian Edwards. What else? What else is good? Good practice on a remote call. Should you always have your camera on? What else is good? What do you guys think about headsets? Yeah. Just to follow up on that, one of the great things about headsets is most headsets have what's called a near field microphone, which means instead of listening to every minute sound in your environment, they try to listen close to the headset. And so you're more likely to get the person's voice and not like the gardener outside and the tapping of the clock and and all of those things. So even a decent microphone will really help cut down if you're in an environment that's not super quiet. Cool. Mm. And and then William, as just as a follow-up question, what's your experience around like if it's the first time maybe some groups are doing remote sharing, what would you do around when to show up and when to start and all of that? Yeah, absolutely. Any other best practices that come to mind, or things that you do that, or things that other people do that you like, or even maybe things that other people do that don't seem like a best practice? I think a good specific case of that is if you're sometimes when you're home, the environment changes and you need to move with your laptop somewhere else. And I think just saying like, and that might also sometimes just be a chat thing of like, hey, I need to relocate. And then I always appreciate it when people turn their video off when they're doing that because the weird bouncy like sickness inducing tour of your house is maybe not what you intended or not what I intended when I'm toddling around to get things. Yeah. Alrighty. So shifting gears to some Zoom specific stuff. If we were in person, I would have candy and slide it or hurl it across the room, but I don't. So just imagine that there's candy. um, but so I thought I'd throw out a couple sort of basic wonderings about Zoom, and you guys could chime in because I bet the answers are all out there among you. And so, does everybody in a Zoom meeting need to have a Zoom account? No. Yay. Okay. And then as a follow-up question, does everybody at Partners have access? Hang on. Should everybody at Partners have access to a pro level Zoom account where they can host meetings for days? Yay! And what do you do if you don't have one? Oh my God, so much candy for Rena. Exactly, exactly. And so if you're setting up a meeting with folks remotely, and especially if it's their first time, I think it's always good to say, like, you don't need to sign up for anything, you don't need to do anything. Just click the link that I send you. And if you have it already installed, great. And then just enter your name so we know who you are when you come in. I think is great. I'm gonna go to my notes because the little buffer in my brain. Oh, aloha! The little buffer in my brain has emptied. Oh, yes, mute and headsets. Oh, we did that. Screen sharing. How, if I were in a meeting, say over here on the right side of my screen. Oh, it's hard for me to stare at myself like that. Can you all see the Zoom window on the right? That's why I'm using Hangout so I can show you Zoom because normally it's like the mirror can't see itself. Can everybody see the Zoom window over there? All right, great. And so how do I share my screen with Zoom? The green, the green button. Yes. And then, okay, so this is a little dizzying. What do I typically want to share? Like, what's the good choice here, and maybe why? Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. That's great. So then you don't accidentally overshare. What would be a good time? Has anybody had a reason to share, to explicitly share their whole screen? And was that useful to you in any way? Exactly. Yeah. So calibrating SDRs is a great example because you've got your Zoom window up. You may have some reference materials that you want to have on the screen. Now you're going to have Webster on the screen, and yeah, so that might be where you want to share the whole shebang. Um, is there any, if you're going to share your whole screen, are there any precautions you would take before doing that? What was that? Check your tabs. Yeah, sure. What else, Rita? Hmm. One of the things that I like to do, especially if I'm on a Mac, is turn off notifications. And you can do the same thing on Windows so that you don't get those like, you've got an email every 7 seconds or, a text from your mom, things like that. Cool. Alrighty. We're rocking along. Screen sharing. Who can screen share in a meeting, in a Zoom meeting? Yes. Can anybody else screen share? Yes. Yeah, and exactly. Yeah. So anybody in a meeting can share, and then the great thing about Zoom is that if you're the person hosting the meeting, you can use your share button to kind of cancel a share and share something else, or just turn off somebody's share. And that's good because sometimes people will be on and they'll be screen sharing and their connection will die, but they're sort of still in Zoom and they've kind of accidentally hijacked the meeting. And so that's a good way to sort of free the meeting from that little glitch. Cool. Alrighty. Um, how do I get how do I get an invite to get people into my Zoom meeting? What are some ways I can do that? Oh yeah. How do I get the link to like put in a calendar invite or put in an email or like chat in Basecamp or something? How do I get the link or how do I get the link and the phone number and all that information for the meeting? How do I get that? I'll give you a hint. Yes. And it's actually this little Chrome plugin, the Zoom scheduler, that does that for you. And so if you're jealous of that feature and you don't have that feature somehow, it's a Chrome plugin that you can add to your Chrome, and then it'll help you make things zoomy. Yeah, and if you're in a meeting also, so like over here, I can hit invite, and then I can either invite contacts or I can invite by emails. I can just copy the meeting ID text, or I can copy the whole invitation into the clipboard, and then I could paste that into an email or a text message or whatever other way I needed to get that information to somebody to get them into the meeting. Do I have to be on a computer to join a Zoom meeting? No. Yes. What else could you join from, John? Have you ever done that? How'd it work out? Oh, great. Has anybody ever joined from like a tablet or a Chromebook or something else? An iPad? And how did it work out if you were going to coach somebody on joining by iPad? Uh-huh. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, if you're part of a big meeting and maybe there's a couple of you facilitating the meeting and there's some loud call-ins or there's some folks on the line that aren't maybe aware that there's some chronic disturbance coming from them, is there a way that you can kind of tamp that down without stopping the meeting and talking to them? How would you do that? Or how do you do that? Sure. Sure. Yeah. How do you do that? How do you do that? You could drive me. I have the Hangout open right now. Yeah, and you can also hit manage participants, and then you get a whole participant list here, and you can mute people, and then they can unmute themselves, of course. Alrighty, let me look back at my little canoodling over here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't reach out and pull people into a Zoom. They have to call in. The one sort of little help for that is that there is like a code that as part of the invitation URL, there's a little code that works on iPhones where you can just tap that text and it'll dial into the meeting and enter the meeting code for you. Yeah. Does anybody ever use these voting buttons? Do these look familiar? These little yes, no, go slower, go faster. No. You have. Yeah, yeah, they're kind of fun. So this is I would think would be for a bigger meeting that was maybe more of a series of presentations or a set and get. Um, but this is a way that like if you have a presenter and then you have somebody kind of managing the meeting, which is a good idea I think with many person meetings. These buttons are a way for people to kind of send signals, and then the sort of the manager of the meeting can be like. Hey, person talking. 17 of the 20 people have hit the coffee break button. Maybe we should take a break. Or you can ask questions like if you have a large group and like a thumbs might not work. You can ask people to use the thumbs up, thumb down button. Like, hey, who thinks we should do this next? Or so you can do a little bit of sort of cheap polling in here. And then people also once they know it's there, there's a class of people who will have fun clicking those buttons as a way of leaning into the meeting during a sit and get. So that can be kind of fun. Um, Recording meetings. Who's anybody recorded a meeting? How'd you do it, and how did it go? And what'd you do with it? Mm-hmm. Mm, right. Yeah. There's two options for recording that can be useful depending on how nerdy you are. The default option, if you just have the record button, which I'm not sure if it'll show up. I'm not sure I can make. Oh yeah, and so if you just have the record button here if you hit the record button, it'll record to the cloud, and so you could be on any device, and it'll just get stored in your Zoom account, which you can get to by going to zoom.us, and then you can find your recordings in there. Um, the other thing you can do if you're nerdy or you need to do something special with the video is you can kind of click the button. You can say record to this computer, and then it'll actually record on your local computer. It won't go anywhere, and then you'll get a video file that you could then easily edit or work with otherwise on your computer if you were like doing a training and you wanted to add some, if you wanted to clean it up a little bit or so, for example, I often, if I happen to be in a staff meeting, I'll record the staff meeting on my own computer because what I then do is I trim the beginning and the end of the staff meeting, so our little blah 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 at the beginning, people don't have to scroll through it, and then I upload it to YouTube. Oh, so that's another thing. I upload the video to YouTube and I upload it as unlisted, which in YouTube is a way of saying like, I want to be able to give the link to this video to people, but I don't want anybody to be able to find it just by looking for it. And so it gives you a level of confidentiality. So you could record like a team meeting or a coaching session. And then if you wanted to give the other person access to it, you could upload it to YouTube as an unlisted video. Um, and then you could give them the link, and then you're the only people that could find it. We have a nonprofit YouTube account as part of partners. So all of your partners' IDs, if you go with them in your Chrome, in your work Chrome, uh, to YouTube, you'll be able to upload videos and do all the fancy stuff. Nice. What was that, William? We eventually have not an unlimited amount of Zoom storage, and you have to have, I believe that you have to have a Zoom account to see a Zoom linked video, I believe. And YouTube also does a better job of like making it available in various formats and streaming it faster and not at full resolution, and so it's easier to watch a YouTube video like on your phone or whatever. It's just a little YouTube's just being a platform to do that. It just has a few little handier little widgets for doing that. Alrighty, let me close my participants window. Why wait? It might be more distracting if parts of you are constantly disappearing into space. Right, right. Or with like a or something. But so you go into the Zoom settings, which are here, and then I believe under video. Oh, touch up my appearance. I definitely need to be prettier. Um, No, virtual background. There it is. So you go to settings, virtual background, and then you can pick one of their defaults, and it'll show you what it's going to look like. Now, if you're wearing a headset, it does do weird stuff like this because it can't quite figure out where you end and the Borg begins, you know. And you can add your own pictures. Like this is a picture from in front of my house in the fall, and so I did this one for a while. But yeah, that's how you do it. Bye, Rena. Yeah, so that's how those work. And I'm going to turn that off. What other questions do we have? Should I talk about breakout rooms? Yay. So you should, I believe, I believe that I have that I have turned breakout rooms on for everybody. And so whenever you're the host of a meeting, you should have the sort of extra buttons of record and breakout rooms if your window is big enough. And if your window is smaller, you get this more thing and it'll be hiding under there. And so the way breakout rooms work is there's sort of two ways to deal with breakout rooms. You can either let Zoom kind of randomly sort people into breakout rooms, or you can specifically go put people into breakout rooms. I will say the manual process is not the most elegant user interface process, and it takes a while. So if you're going to do that, that's a good thing to do like during a break to kind of start this process during break and then come back, introduce the breakout rooms, tell people what's going to happen, and then go into it. Um, so if you say automatically, you can choose how many rooms you want to divide people up into, and then it will just create that many rooms as evenly as possible, distribute people randomly into them, and then you'll get a pop-up on your screen that says, "Hey, you're being invited to, breakout room 7 or super awesome breakout room or whatever it's called." And the person has to actually click that button to actively go into the breakout room. Otherwise, they stay in the main meeting with you. Um, and then to end a breakout, you'll see that you're in a breakout rooms and there's a button to end the breakout sessions. And then everyone in the breakout sessions will get a countdown, like a 60-second countdown to return to the home screen, or there's also a button to do it immediately if they just want to go back, but it'll give them a minute to kind of wrap up whatever was happening. So they don't just get yanked mid-sentence back into a group setting. If you want to see the manual creation process, this is what it looks like. It's going to be weird because there's not anybody in there, but Yeah, you can see here. So I told it I want 6 rooms, and I can name the rooms. Oh, I can't spell. You can name the rooms. You can remove rooms like, oh, room 4. No one ever goes in room 4. And then you can assign participants into the room. You click the assign button, you get a list of participants, and you click who goes in the room, and then you go on to the next. So that's why it has to be during the call. Yeah, which makes it a little bit less useful. Yeah. So that's why, I recommend just doing the random breakouts. Or if you really want to craft some groups, then you can start this process and just kind of move the window to the side and have it ready. And so that's where it's like if you're Mallory, if you were presenting and if I was like nerd stopping you, you could give me a list of people and like while you're leading up to the breakouts, I could be sitting off to the side and I could be slotting everybody into the rooms and everything. And then when I'm ready or when you're ready and you've introduced and give me the signal, then I can hit the open all rooms and then it'll happen immediately like magic. We may not all have the luxury of backstopping, but or nerd stopping as I like to call it. But yeah, that's breakouts. If you don't have breakout rooms, I would look to see if you have the record button, and it might mean that you're not logged in, that you've gotten into the meeting, but you're not logged in as you. Um, and so you may need to close Zoom and log in first, and then go into your meeting, and then you'll have bossy powers. Um, yes, I believe so. And we should all have breakout rooms. But yeah, like if you were having somebody else lead a thing and they didn't have an account, they couldn't. Right. Yeah. Um, let's see. There is a whiteboard feature. Oh, which I don't have turned on. Maybe because there's nobody else in the meeting. Hmm. Yes. So there is a whiteboard feature where people can all kind of draw on the same surface. I've never seen it used well. And honestly, I would recommend, let's see, what did I hear Sanea call it? Cursor Wars. I would recommend Cursor Wars instead, like opening up a Google Doc, because especially most of our schools are G Suite schools. And so I would recommend like opening up a Google Doc and having, as you all, I've seen you all, I think, do, having like some pre-prepared stuff to interact with and respond to, and to sort of have that time in there rather than the whiteboard, which is a little bit. Um, that was all the things that occurred to me to have us blather about Zoom. So hopefully some of you are like, I know all that stuff. It is a legit whiteboard where people can draw, but like drawing with a mouse is kind of drawing is hard. Right. Right. And so like where I have actually used some of that stuff actually with you, I think, is I've had my iPad join a Zoom, and I've used like an app that's specifically designed with my pen, like for drawing, and drawn out some things. And so let me just pull up Zoom real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But it's sort of one way, which is not great. Yeah, so if I would say if you want an interactive process, I wouldn't use their whiteboard because it's a little tragic. But yeah, something like murals or there was another design tool that we used a bunch early on at Partners that I think has gone out of business. But you know, you can this is a drawing pool and you can put pictures in here and I can draw things and you know and so with this tool, it's great because I can have a conversation about design and I can kind of sketch and like, well, is this what you meant? You know? So it like I can use it as a sort of one-way visual tool, not necessarily needing like an interactive thing. So it's sort of like if you had a tablet and you were, you know, and you were into drawing or you were doing some communicative visual process. But otherwise, yeah, I would use a purpose-built sharing site that allowed you to share your videos. We don't. I do know, and we don't. William, do you know? Yeah, we'd need to, I think, to get an edu domain to get that one, which we don't have. But maybe we will. I don't know if Chris is here, but that's. Well, so as you would know, JA, there's a lot of resources that are on some level free for educators. And the way that they tell that you're an educator is that you have an email address that's like at blah 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 dot edu. And but we're not technically an education organization, so we just have a .org email address. You know, our email address is partnersinschools.org. And if we someday partnered with, you know, some educators so that we could do certifications and da 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 da, da we might then get access to a .edu account and we could slurp a lot more free stuff. So that's that's why I'm excited about the possibility that we could partner up with certifiers because we get a lot more free stuff, free nerd stuff. What other questions are there? Nothing? We good? Oh, like a like how like a way for people to get their Zoom set up? Mm. Yeah, we only have right now we only have an internal facing one. I bet that if you had some ideas about that and you emailed support at partnersinschools.org, that there are some program development and support people, possibly even some kind of collaborative knowledge management person who might be all over that. My favorite thing is assigning to do tasks, even to myself, but to other people is pretty good too. All things are not, well, we are all knowledge workers in some way. Mallory, literally sending the email right now. So in the recent good old days when I was in PDS, Jesse and I and some others did do some kind of playing around with Zoom's polling, and it's bad. I wouldn't use it. I would just do a Google form. You're gonna, yeah, yeah, because you end up having to go into a web interface, and it's very clunky to like design it, and then the thing you get back is sort of. Meh. And I actually tried it recently also, and it's the same schlorp. So yeah, it's like somebody it was somebody's requirement that you had to have it, and so they tacked it on, but it's not. Obviously, nobody relies on it. Yeah, so the only experience I have doing this is like in some of the iterations of staff meetings, is I would take on that role, and so I would sit in the back and I'd have the participants window open all the time, and I would watch for anybody, and there were certain portions where we were like, hey, if anybody has questions, type them in the chat or hit one of the buttons, like raise your hand and we'll stop, and honestly, chatting happened, the buttons didn't really happen. Well, once in a while. We did a few experimental thummy uppy thummy down things, and people sort of gamely went along with it, but it was a little didn't I don't know, didn't catch. Wasn't that fun. But it could be. It could have been our failure. And you could be the genius that will perfect it. Yeah, nerd stopping. How many people can you have in a Zoom meeting? Anybody want to guess? Anybody know? Anybody want to guess? No. It's a lot. It's more than I think we'll ever have. uh, Trick question. All the people. So if you open up your Zoom account, I'm going to drag my window over here. If you open up your Zoom account and you click on your little portrait and you go to your profile, it'll tell you how many people your meetings can have. And we all have the same pro accounts in it, so it's 300. You could have 300 people in your meetings. Think about that, TN network, right? Oh yeah. Alrighty. I don't think I have anything else that I wanted to present or tickle about. Did anybody else have any questions or any other things they wanted to? No, 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 no. Sure. Yeah. Happy to. It was fun. Uh oh. Of course. We could go. Should we check online? Should we check live and in person? Let's do it. I maybe. I might be Zoom shaming myself. So it actually looks like maybe, oh yeah, there you are. Yeah, you've got one. So the tricky thing is if you had started your own Zoom account with a password, that's totally fine. But what you want to do is, when you launch Zoom, whoop, my window went to my other screen. When you launch Zoom, instead of signing in with the email and password, use Google Sign In, and then that'll make sure that and pick your partner's account, and that'll make sure that you get in with your pro partner's account. Yeah, and then you can click here, and it should say pro in the corner. And if it doesn't, who are you going to call? Support@partnersatSchool.org. What else we got? Oh, thank God, I don't have to look at myself anymore. Nothing? Everybody good? All right. You want your 12 minutes back? Yay! All righty. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for being on it. Thanks for being here. I'll post this video, see how it goes.